So in order to craft items in Eternium, you're going to need gold and crafting materials. So today I'm going to do an overview on crafting materials. There will be further videos on this topic, but almost all of the crafting materials in the game can be viewed if you click on the salvage table in the hometown, and you see them listed out across the bottom here. I like to view them or the crafting materials in 6 distinct categories. This isn't anything official, it's just something that I'm going to use for this video. So I like to look at them as basic materials, these ones down here, higher materials, this little group here, essences starting here and running across the entire bottom row, spirits, mark of titans, which is a separate, and then gemstones, which don't appear on this at all. Now it's easy to see how many gemstones you've got. They drop into your normal inventory and you can place them in your stash, so very simple to see. But as far as your other crafting materials, how to see them, there are a few ways. Again, at the salvage table you can click on this anvil icon and it brings up the crafting resources. You can click on the crafting merchant or the blacksmith, and again you've got this anvil icon and you can click and see those. And similarly in your inventory over on the right you've got this helmet stroke anvil, and you can switch between materials for crafting and then back to your normal inventory. Things in here you can move them around as much as you like, just arrange them in whatever order you feel suits your needs best or how you like the look of them. So in terms of the 6 categories that I mentioned, or that I'm going to use for this video, basic materials here, so silver ore, bolts of silk, cured leather and iron bars. These are typically used either to create basic gear or for upgrading into higher materials. Acquire them in a number of ways. They drop quite commonly from defeated enemies, so that will be your primary way of acquiring them, and from salvaging all rarity of gear that you find or craft and then salvage. I would still recommend that grey common gear you just sell for gold, because really not a lot of materials come from them. Silver ore, very common. You're going to get loads and loads of these. Then depending on the class you play will depend on the amounts of other materials that crop out. Silk is mainly used on mages, leather for bounty hunters and iron for warriors. So as well as getting them from sort of dropping on the floor from beating enemies and salvaging, there are also some crafting crates. So there's one available for 25,000 gold, which has a small amount of silk, iron, cured leather and a few smaller essences and some silver ore. Then there are 3 50 gem crates. These are more tailored based on the class, so the one with silk would be more useful for a mage, one with iron for a warrior, one with cured leather for a bounty hunter, and the other one containing sort of basic materials is the expert crafter's crate, which has just got a few more than the basic crates. So moving on to the higher materials, here we have silver dust, silver ornaments, night cloth, enchanted leather and mithril. These are going to be used in crafting more advanced gear. They can drop from enemies, nowhere near as common as the base materials. You would typically be upgrading materials, these base ones, into these as you craft. You can also get them through salvaging gear in far smaller quantities than you would on the base materials. And again, there are options to purchase. What have we got? Master's Crafter's Crate has enchanted leather, mithril, nightcloth ornaments and silver ore, and the Legendary Crafter's Crate at an eye-watering 2,500 gems has quite a few of these materials. Definitely don't splash out on that unless you really know what you're doing. Let's have a brief look at essences. These come in quite a few guises. There will be a separate video for them, but basically there are 5 types: fire, water, air, shadow, earth, and they come in lesser variety, essence variety and greater variety. A few ways of acquiring them. Again, we've got those resource crates, so all of them will give some sort of essence at some sort of quality. But the most common and the main way that you're going to acquire these is from salvaging gear, green and higher, or by crafting them. So you can take lower tier and craft into higher tier, and there are options on the menu to take higher tier and break down into lower tiers, and you can also change types, so water to shadow for example, but that's a completely separate video, so we won't cover that one here. And I nearly forgot, reason essences are so important is that they determine, or they are used to put stats on the gear that you are crafting. So fire will be used for certain stats, water in others, air in others, shadow in others, and earth in others. Now I've arranged down the bottom here spirits as a separate category. These are used exclusively in crafting enchants for your gear. They are extremely rare drops from enemies or bosses. You can acquire them through locked chests on story maps for gems. I don't recommend that you do that. That would be an extremely expensive and inefficient way of getting them. So the main way that you're going to acquire these will be via crafting, which uses typically greater essences, and you'll combine one from one and one of another to create one of these spirits. And again, there'll be a separate video covering how to do that. Moving on, we have Mark of Titans. I've got these in a class all on their own. Says it's a rare reagent used in crafting to create set and unique armor and weapons. That is exactly correct. They are extremely rare drops. They can drop from bosses. They can pop out of chests from time to time, but extremely rarely. You can purchase them. There are 2 crates. This 200 gem containing 3 to 6. That's not a good idea. And the very expensive Legendary Crafter's Crate, which has 55 to 65. And again, unless you really know what you're doing, avoid at all costs. I would say avoid, except if you're in AMB events and you know exactly what you're doing, or you're following along with some guide. So as we've seen, they are used to create set and unique gear, and the way that you acquire them normally is by salvaging set and unique gear. I don't know if this character, the way that I'm doing that is to, here's a couple of set items. I like to save up as many as possible and then salvage them all in one go, because that has a higher yield than just salvaging items individually as you get them. So the final category of crafting materials, gemstones. We've covered these briefly in the gemstones video as well. Whilst they're primarily used in jewellery and in upgrading your gear by adding them into any sockets you've got, they do have some use in crafting as well, mainly for crafting enchantments, but there's also a separate process, shattering and combining, which will be covered in another video, so this one isn't too long. And that allows you to change brilliant gemstones from one type to another through combining process, and shattering allows you to take brilliance down to trillion and trillion back down to radiance, because brilliance, trillion and radiance can be used in crafting. So I think that covers the absolute basics on materials. Any questions or comments, feel free to ask them down below. As I say, there should be a number of videos on crafting topic covering the basics, so keep an eye out for those ones as well. Thank you very much for watching.